Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today is no exception. We have a great guest all the way from Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the show, Jake Marmulstein.
Hi, Victor. Great to be with you.
Great to have you here. Now, Jake, you are an entrepreneur, and really in the classic definition, you've developed a product that was born out of an internal need and then saw that there was a need for it in the marketplace. And I want to make sure that this doesn't sound like an infomercial, because it's not at all, but I really would love to hear your backstory and how you got into this side of the business.
Yeah, so it goes all the way back to when I was actually living in Rio de Janeiro, working in the federal government, and I was actually doing foreign investment promotion. And in that job, you see a lot of things. You learn about the development of the city, the laws, the players. And I had an opportunity to team up with some friends and invest in some real estate. As a young, recent college grad, 21 years old, wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. So I thought I could buy a hotel that was off-market deal in the downtown city center that was perfectly positioned between the airport and the business district and the beach. And it was going to be a $2 million raise. I put together the architectural renderings, went to the property, took photos, did the investment pitch deck, and made a list of investors and started pitching people. And it was my first experience failing at raising capital for real estate.
Very fascinating. So why did you fail?
I didn't have a process or a system to raise the money and appear professional to the people that I was pitching, because I didn't have a track record. I didn't have experience. I didn't know what I needed at the time. And it was many different things that I was having to juggle at the same time. So I believe it was just a culmination of a lack of experience and a lack of systems and direction.
So fast forward, then you saw a need and developed something to scratch your own itch, so to speak.
Yeah, I came back to the United States. I worked at a real estate investment trust, and I was one of 5 people in the firm. And there I also saw that we had no systems. It was all Excel based. And that's when I was filling my education gaps on what I needed to do to be successful, but also was astounded by the lack of process in the company and how much administrative burden there was.
And so what was the next step from there?
So after that, I realized I was working at another company, and I saw that the Jobs Act had passed, and it kind of connected the dots for me. The Jobs Act meant that people were going to be able to raise capital publicly, and some companies started to take advantage of that, like Fundrise and Realty Mogul and Realty Shares, and there were a handful of others at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, this is going to push other people who aren't tech savvy to realize that technology can streamline the operations behind raising money and managing investors. And this is a problem that other companies are facing now. So forget about crowdfunding or public raising. That's a beautiful thing. But the problem is the workflow, and technology can solve that problem. And now that it's out there in the open and people are seeing it, more people are going to have to change and adapt, because consumer tastes are evolving and changing too.
So you saw the Jobs Act, the almost explosion of private investing that precipitated from that. And now you developed this really for your own purposes. So maybe take us through the trajectory of Groundbreaker. That's the company, the product, and what it does today.
Yeah, so Groundbreaker helps early stage real estate investment professionals get their deals off the ground, market it to investors, close capital, and service their investors through the whole investment lifecycle. And beyond that, we've brought in partners and services and are building an ecosystem so that we can act more as a partner to the companies we work with than just simply a tool where we can make an impact on their development and growth as a professional, so that they can get help and expertise and resources at every step of the way as they build and scale their business. And that evolved from the need in the space for rationalizing this complex workflow And then realizing that a lot of the people who do this work don't have all of the answers. They're juggling many different balls, wearing many different hats, and they typically have a small team.
So what are the various elements of Groundbreaker? Is it just a CRM, a customer relationship manager? Is there financial analysis? Is there what's involved in it?
So Groundbreaker offers the deal sponsor the ability to create the deal in the system, which contains a professional looking data room that guides them on the process of filling out their offering documents so they can have a professional looking presentation to investors to showcase the deal. It gives them a way to add all their investors into a CRM, if you will, that they can then use to market the deal to those investors. Investors can log into a portal, they can see the deal, they can see the terms, they can click to subscribe, click to sign, and click to ACH funds. And then the professional on the other end, the deal sponsor, has their whole cap table. They can monitor investors as they're coming in, nurture them through the process to close, and then be able to service the investors after that deal has closed, announcing the close of the deal, and then being able to calculate and distribute funds and upload any reports and documents. And the portal produces a certain level of reporting on its own based on their ownership percentage and their allocations and distributions that they're getting back.
One of the things that's so important from a deal sponsor standpoint is the investor relations piece. Certainly the marketing leading up to the closing of the deal is important, but it's really the post-closing, the execution, the communication post-closing. How does Groundbreaker solve that?
So the portal answers a lot of questions for investors when they're looking for answers on how much capital has been distributed to them or how much they've invested. They also don't need to be searching through their email to find any reports or K1s that you're going to share with them. It has automated metrics that are telling them their equity balance at any time. So for the real estate deal sponsor, it's helping to cut down on the number of questions that you would typically get from an investor who's just looking to stay up to date on the investment. And for the investor, it's giving them a safeguarded portal that has all their information in it. So if they ever want to check, they can just log in without having to ask any questions or go through any human beings. So I think that the system provides a baseline level, a foundation for that reporting experience to take place.
When you think about investors making a decision to invest or not invest, oftentimes you're dealing with objections from investors. How does an investor get their questions answered, and how can the tool facilitate that, if it does at all, to overcome objections?
Well, it really depends on the kind of questions and the type of investors we're talking about. A sophisticated investor who's going to go through the documents and look into the financials is going to need to ask questions directly to the sponsor, unless the sponsor has done a very good job of explaining that in the data room itself. You can certainly drop videos into the data room and walk through the deal, and then be able to have certain sections underneath that talk through the financials. But I think that, those questions are pretty nuanced when you get a sophisticated investor that really wants to go through the numbers. But most investors that we see working with our customers aren't necessarily that type of investor. They typically bet on the jockey, and because they've invested before, or they feel comfortable with the person that they're investing with, they really care about how things are packaged, how professional the sponsor is coming off, if they can trust them, and if they have a plan and they're convinced on whether that plan is legitimate or not. We see Groundbreaker more as a mechanism to help handle the administrative work than necessarily convincing an investor to go and invest. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a tool, it's a platform, and you separate the concept of the platform from the content. That makes sense. This is a space that has attracted a lot of attention and investment lately from a number of companies, including folks that are well established in property management and companies that are really targeting this exempt market offering space. How is Groundbreaker differentiated from some of the other offerings that are out there?
So what we're doing that we believe provides a level of experience that differentiates us, and our customers have validated this, is our customer service and experience that we're delivering. It's one thing to put your data into the system and give you a tool and give you support articles, but it's another thing to work hand in hand with the deal sponsor to make sure that they fully adopt the software and that their LPs adopt the software and that they're successful when they raise capital. And when they do distributions, everybody who's signed up on the portal can have their money come in electronically. So we really work closely with the client to make sure that they're getting the full value of the solution and accompanying them through the process. And that concierge customer service experience leads to the next part of our business, which is to add a specialist network that helps the early stage real estate syndicator get everything they need so they can focus on doing more deals, meeting more investors. And we're filling in with legal services, investor marketing services, the ability to fill your capital stack with debt and equity. And we're moving to populate that marketplace with other services as well, such as underwriting, property insurance, and more.
Fascinating.
And as we continue building an ecosystem where everybody who gets on Groundbreaker adds to that ecosystem in terms of being able to cross-pollinate and do business with each other.
Fascinating. Well, Jake, if folks want to connect, if they want to learn more, what's the best way?
They can reach out to Jake at groundbreaker.co. Go to our website, groundbreaker.co, if you're interested in signing up. And you can also go and find us on LinkedIn and follow our page.
Fabulous. Well, I love what you're doing. It's an important space. Every professional syndicator out there needs to be using a tool like this. And for the listeners at home, definitely connect with Jake at groundbreaker.co. That's groundbreaker.co. The link will be in the show notes. In the meantime, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.